Hello, welcome everybody to Interactive Friction Season 2. That's
Yeah.
right, we actually finished a Let's Play. Can you believe it, guys?
And we're starting another one because we're insane.
And this time we're doing a game that's similar to Far Cry 3 in some respects, but it's overall better in most people's opinions, including both mine and Sam's.
I heard a guy once call it Better Cry 3, who's a pretty smart guy. Pretty funny, too.
Now he's a bit of a dumbass.
Yeah. So, this was one of my favorite games of 2013. I fucking love Tomb Raider. This is going to... I was on my third playthrough, which you saw in the new game thing, the 33% or whatever. The 77 was the one that I'm trying to get everything in the entire map. Like
I just want to
100%.
say right off the bat, this game has good subtitles.
Yeah, it does the
That's a
Walking
very
Dead
stupid thing to comment on, but I mean, the fact that they give you that black behind the subtitles so that you can actually don't have to worry about it blending into the actual game.
Well, they also...
That is just it's nice, and plus every character has their own color of dialogue, so
Right.
you don't need to see the character's name to know who's speaking what. It's very nice, and just it's a small detail to comment on, but as someone who sees a lot of subtitles in games, that's something that people get wrong very often.
And it's the thing where, like, I've seen people complain about the subtitles in this and in Walking Dead, where it's like they're so multicolored and it's a little bit off-putting to look at, but at the same time, I think it's great for people who have, like, hearing disabilities, because I can't
So I can at a
imagine...
glance say, "Oh, that's a different color." I mean, someone else is speaking.
Yeah, it's like, it's a hard thing to imagine for people who hear fine all their life, but I can at least think of the idea that if you have always been hard of hearing, or more recently so, then you can play a game like this and be like, okay, this is this character's color. Now, from now on, I will always know this is this character's color.
Even someone like me who has no hearing disabilities, it's nice because I always have subtitles on, because sometimes you'll just some deliveries and voice acting you just can't understand, and sometimes subtitles help making that a little bit more clear.
Well, I'm talking specifically about like the color stuff.
Yeah.
Subtitles in general are always great. I think it would be kind of nice if you could have both. If you could just have like a colored and non-colored, because I find the color to be a little bit much, but I would rather have that and help people out with.
I mean, if you're Let's Playing, it's almost mandatory to include subtitles so people who actually care about keeping track of the story.
Yeah, there's
but even in the general sense, I always have subtitles on when I play games just to make it easier on me to understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's very funny just to look at these, because it definitely seems like someone who either knew someone with this kind of disability or just really thought about it, because they have black backgrounds, they're bolded text, and they have different colors with the names on them as well.
And it's really clear to read text.
Yeah, and they have like everyone's names
Oh
too.
my god, so many games have problems getting text wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
I forgot this is also closed captioned as well. So you could be straight deaf and understand what's happening.
I find the Skyrim font to be really, really hard to read sometimes.
Oh yeah, there's a mod on the PC version that just changes the font system-wide.
Yeah, so yeah, like font is an issue that not many people like address.
Yeah. Closed caption's also one of those where I wish it was like an option, but again, if you're gonna have it, I'd rather just have it than not have it at all. If there's no choice for an option. Like, what is it? Valve games have, like, regular and closed caption. So closed captioning, if you don't know, is just when it says things like creaking noise, or, like, lower groan, or just, like, snap.
And, oh my god, this is a disturbing scene.
Yeah, it really starts out on a, like, first thing that came to mind when I saw this is, how did she get up there? Like, I guess someone dragged her, and then... probably like
we enabled stress effects for this, at least these first couple episodes.
Yeah, until such point that the frame rate takes some kind of weird nosedive.
But that's
out.
actually really distracting.
Well, it's weird because as people have described it, the hair, like the physics are really loose on it, so her hair moves way too much.
It does. It's actually really distracting.
But it's kind of a shame because it's a really cool looking effect to see individual strands of hair move in the front, but like the ponytail bounces constantly, and it's really off-putting. Oh, sorry, I was trying to go to the candles. You gotta go this way.
Yeah, but you mean that was a nice little way of introducing. You saw that body when you burned it, it broke the trap.
And
so now
here we're gonna get to the beginning of the the disturbing parts of this game, which is Laura gets fucking messed up in a way that a lot of people
start off right now. Ow!
And it's such a weird thing where, like, people have just talked about this at great length, and I kind of agree with the idea that it's like, I don't think they were going for, like, a weird torture porn thing, but it's hard not to see that.
Yeah,
and that, like, the beginning of the game is her just getting fucking wrecked by everything.
I like how they bring you into, like, the low health status just temporarily to show you that really fucking hurt.
Yeah, you know what that is? That's good game design, Brandon.
Yeah, that's good use of UI.
Remember good game design?
Yes. I remember that used to exist at one point in time.
Oh man.
I'm being mean. There are a lot of good design games.
Yeah, it's just based on what I've played lately, and then like, you know, I've been playing a lot of games lately, and then I went back and played this because I was getting prepared for this season, and just playing it and going like, oh my god, the shooting is great, the cover is like 95% amazing.
This section does a really good job at teaching you the basic mechanics.
Yep. And it does a great job
of, and that means, oh yeah, you need fire here. So.
And it does the important thing is it also does a pretty good job without just pulling up prompts that stop you from playing. You know, it's very much just like, and it does use a lot of text boxes, but not as many as it could have if it was poorly designed.
It doesn't pause the game to give you a text box.
Yeah.
That's a very important thing to note. A lot of games do that, and it's actually very annoying. If you've like played this game for like 4 times now, and you've already
or even if you and you have stuff like where it says press A to jump, which is if you've played a lot of games, you could probably already assume that.
Yeah,
so it's great it doesn't stop you.
So it's nice that it's there to teach you, but it's great that it doesn't pause the game and say, oh, you should jump now.
Yeah. And you know, while it's not the greatest at this, it does have a lot of situations like towards the beginning with the sort of flaming body bags or whatever, where it does stuff without actually just telling you straight up.
I sincerely doubt that water is sanitary, so...
Yeah.
She'd probably be dead of an infection already.
So I'm trying to think, obviously, if this is your first time watching, we will be spoiling this game at any point. It's not really like we just set up like an outline of what to spoil, but it happens.
We just talk and stuff happens.
We talk about the story and how it changed over the game.
We are assuming you. Oh god,
this is under the assumption that you have played this game before.
That cannot be sanitary.
No. So
that water looks bloody.
Just a heads up, if you have not played this game before, I would highly encourage you play it before watching this.
If she has open wounds like she does, she should be dead of an infection already.
Yeah, well, I mean, she has the gaping wound from the rebar that fell into her. Which is, like, it's funny that that wound comes up throughout the entire game. Like, I was at the point where I got to the shantytown in that, you know, version I was playing the other time, testing out the footage. And that was when she got hit in that same spot, and that's when she takes the arrow and, like, you know, lights it up and does, what's what I'm looking for? Oh, what is the word for when you use heat to close up a wound?
Cauterizing.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that like that same wound comes up throughout the entire game, and that it's like she probably does need dire medical attention.
And the voice actor is very, very good at conveying that kind of pain that she's going through.
Sometimes almost uncomfortably so. Like,
yes.
There are times it makes you feel kind of uncomfortable to hear Laura just like fucking scream in pain. Like,
but
again,
I want to say that's intentional. I want to say that's intentional.
I would have to imagine so. You know, as for whether you think that's a well done effect or whether you think that's good to her character, I think it's a different argument, but I think it's, you know, well acted, to say the least. The only thing that bums me out about the PC version is it has like the stress effects and like it runs at a great frame rate and a great resolution. You can run it like 4K or whatever. But the only problem being is that they put out the definitive edition at one point and that had a completely new face model, and then they said we're not going to put this on the PC version. Which is a real problem.
You had to get the boxes into that cube and then drop them.
Yeah. It's a puzzle game.
And you know what? The puzzles in this game are actually pretty well designed.
Yeah.
You had to drop the cage.
Oh, I just wanted to burn everything. Alright, it's been a while since I've done the beginning of this. Oh, you just have to jump on the cage, if I remember correctly, to bring it down?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, just like Uncharted, this game does some pretty nifty puzzles as far as, like, they're simple enough that even I get them without having to look at the walkthrough. Which is kind of what I want out of these games. I don't want anything...
And they're very well-designed puzzles. Like, they make you feel smart for solving them, which is something that games do. like that's something that's really hard for a lot of games to
yeah.
to get.
Well, they make you feel smart for solving them without having to look up a walkthrough. Like
Yes.
I was recently playing Grim Fandango Remastered, and fuck that game without using a walkthrough. It's just not fun. Also, just
From what
like,
I've been told, that's just a symptom of old school adventure game design.
yeah. But it's kind of funny, again, when I was replaying this and I was enjoying the combat and the platforming and all, like, the story and the adventure, I couldn't help but wonder, why are there more games of this ilk, like Uncharted Tomb Raider games? Like, you just don't see that many action platformers.
Because platforming, it's kind of become a thing that not a lot of people want to do anymore.
I guess, but like, you know...
Which I'm not entirely sure why that is, honestly.
But like, you know, this is what some people have come to call risk-free platforming, which is that there's not much penalty or fear of death as far as magnetizing to stuff. I hit the wrong button, and Laura's bones have been crushed.
Yeah.
Which is a good time to bring up the fact that the death animations are a little bit much a lot of the time.
Oh,
You're probably thinking of a very specific one.
Yeah, there's one that
happens when you're going down a river. I hit that
yeah,
point
it's the
when
same.
I was playing last.
We both agree it's that one.
And that was the one that people brought up a whole bunch with the idea of like, you know, like that one's pretty bad, but there is one, if you remember later in the game, where she's going down a river and there's a long sort of steel pipe, and if you don't dodge that, it slams right through her neck. I'm also
not entirely sure why these people are so focused on grabbing her at this point in time. Because honestly, they should be more focused on not dying because of the cave-in.
Well, I'd have to imagine, based on, you know, the later parts of the story where they talk about how long they've been on the island and how they're looking for this girl to sacrifice, they're probably so crazy that at this point they'll risk their legs or their arms to get this girl. Because they don't know it's Sam yet, that the one they want to get.
Oh, and Sam. We'll get to Sam.
Yeah. But I would have to imagine...
Man, I can't stand Sam.
But I imagine that's the reason why they're trying to get her so badly, is they just want to grab everybody so that they're all ready for sacrifice. And if you've been on this island for, God, I think they described months or years, yeah, you'd probably be like, I would risk an arm or a leg to get off this island. Also, great tone, great setting, great backdrop.
Yeah.
Great opener.
Like, this was a much needed reboot for Lara Croft as well.
Yeah,
because honestly, towards the end of like that old run, she was getting to the point where she was just completely unlikable.
Tomb Raider.
Like, I played Underworld. Underworld was a really shitty game.
Yeah, it got to this weird point where, like, you know, I've definitely heard some people say that the lore in this game is a little too frail, even though it's an origin story and she definitely grows out of it by the end.
I mean, at this point, she's a college student who just graduated archaeology school.
Yeah, and gets thrown into this, you know, I get that, but the point being that, you know, you complain about that, but I feel like that's a better reboot than what Laura became towards the end of Underworld, which is just impossibly snarky and kind of asshole-ish.
Like, honestly, think about it. If you were a college graduate who just gets thrust in a situation like this, you probably wouldn't be that great at it either, honestly.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, people...
And honestly, she's probably better than she should be.
My point being that a lot of people disliked it because Laura was this really strong female character in a lot of the later Tomb Raider games.
And she does eventually grow into that role in this game.
Yeah, there's a specific point I remember where, what is it, where you're like at the temple, and it's when you get the grenade launcher attachment for the assault rifle.
Yes, I know the line you're thinking of.
Yeah, where she says, "Run, you bastards."
I'm coming for you all.
Yeah. So, like, I get the point where people say I wanted, like, a strong character, but I feel like Laura at some point just became, like, way too snarky.
Well, this was the story with her becoming a strong character.
So, it's an important setup.
Yeah.
And we got the new one coming out. Also, my frame rate's starting to dip because of the hair effects. Those tress effects.
I'm watching this stream and I really can't notice. I just noticed how flippant the hair is. And I mean flippant in a much more literal term than most people use it.
Sorry, I was distracted for a moment.
And it flips a lot.
Yeah, it bounces constantly.
It is extremely distracting.
Alright. So yeah, this is very much like the Uncharted style, like, pseudo risk-free platforming.
Have you played the Uncharted games, Sam?
Have I? Oh, I've played all three. I have not finished the first one. I finished the second one about 4 times, and the third one twice.
Yeah, the first one was easily the worst in terms of play. Like,
Yeah.
they definitely, after Uncharted 2, after the first game, they definitely learned a bit more about how to do good PS3 platforming games.
Yeah, and I also feel like they kind of faltered a bit with 3 as well, as far as
Oh
like
yeah,
story.
3 was not
like environments weren't terribly great.
like in terms of story, I would rate it 2, 1, and 3.
Yeah, but just like 2, I feel like had like the best setups as far as
Yeah.
like remember the building collapsing and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. 2 is by far the pinnacle of that franchise. I
Yeah.
think most people agree on that.
All right, we're getting close to ending episode 1.
And it's cool. Engineered contrast. Yeah, we're 15 and a half minutes.
Okay, we got a little while.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to contrast this to the last game you played, which is Far Cry 3.
Yeah,
because this is basically the same setup of this
foreign
plucky
person in new land.
This plucky kid in a foreign land, eventually growing up and realizing that they can step up to the plate and do what needs to be done. Except it's
Jason,
much more
it was
believable,
so poorly done.
and it's a lot more believable in here. In this game, it's a lot more believable.
Yeah, it was just God, yeah. I mean, we've already talked a bit about like how Laura grows and changes, and Jason, it just felt so weird that he just automatically started this like this total badass. Like you didn't earn that character arc.
He was scared the first time he stabbed a dude, and then he got over it immediately afterwards.
It's just so weird because it's like Ubisoft just couldn't wait for the game to get
like,
to the fun action parts.
Because this is literally like the whole arc of Laura's character as she is growing into a strong woman that can handle herself.
Yeah, and as we'll get into when it comes up a bit more, but
and her
arc does also move a little too fast in the beginning. But it's a hell of a lot longer than it is in Far Cry 3.
And we'll discuss that momentarily, because there is some pretty good discussion to be had with how this game got designed and all sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just great. I just love, like, the character look, Yeah. Like, just, she looks believable as a person. Like, just when you look at her face and the earrings and I was like, yeah, that looks like someone that I could see
that
being
looks
a
like
student.
that looks like a normal human being.
Yeah, and one thing that's also kind of interesting to note, just
this game does look really good.
Yeah, even still, a couple years later.
Yeah.
It's like the textures are a bit...
It wasn't that long ago, dude.
Yeah, true. I was gonna say the only thing is the textures are a bit muddier, but I mean, like, that's only compared to like the best of today. It still looks perfectly fine.
This is a last-gen game.
Yeah. However, man, it's PC. It's current gen all the time. But I was going to say that I find it interesting that with at least the default outfit of, you can choose several other ones, that her, I think it's a camisole is what she's wearing, along with an undershirt, actually gets, like, torn up and ragged and gets, like, burn marks and scratches all over it.
They have, like, 3 different models of, like, normal Laura from before she got on the island, then, and then as she goes through the game, she gets grittier and dirtier, and they have different models for, different texture models for that.
Yeah,
texture maps.
It's very much like Batman in the Arkham City and Arkham Asylum games, where like his cape slightly gets torn up and his suit gets a little fucked up. Like with her, she gets like a lot more cuts, bruises. The shirt gets torn.
Yeah, so here is an interesting little thing where they try to explain the backstory through these videos.
Yeah,
that Sam took before they got to the island.
Which, me being judgy here as I should be, it's a little bit of a lazy way to do it.
What I would have done if I was the one designing this and I had free reign is I would have had that boat segment be the tutorial. I would have had spent maybe an hour or so on that boat just getting to know the survivors before we got crashed onto the island.
Yeah, but
that's not something that AAA is able to do because it's mostly you got to get to the action as soon as possible in modern AAA game design because that's what people want. But if I had free reign, that's the way I would have done it just for the plot structure, just to have that bit of downtime where you're not in the middle of this deadly situation. You're just with these friends, just talking, and just getting to know them a little bit.
I mean, it is very much like the like Hollywood movie AAA game thing, though, where it's like, all right, we'll throw into the action real quick and get a really good starter hook, and then we'll slowly bleed in the backstory.
Because this is not a bad compromise.
No.
Between those two, but if I had my way, that's where I would have gone. Is that you could have this little building up of the friendships and the bonds between the cast of characters, and then you can gradually grow and have the island happen, and then you get into the action.
See, one.
Of course, if I had my way, this game would have taken a lot longer to get to the actual combat.
Yeah.
But
also, just seeing Whitman, like I feel like he might be like one of the weakest characters in this series in this game.
Well, he's the token bad guy, and you can see it the moment he comes on the screen.
Yeah, but I never like fully understood his motivation for doing so beyond I want to see this. Like,
well, he thinks he'll make profits off of making a good documentary out. That's literally his entire character.
It's just like it just seems like such like a video game movie bad guy thing. Like it just doesn't feel very natural.
Yeah, it doesn't, honestly. It could be if they had just like developed it a bit better, but
yeah. But you only see Whitman like a handful of times throughout the game. Like you see him when you first meet Sam and he's acting kind of weird, and then like you see him in the temple and that's when he betrays you.
I mean, he's acting kind of weird, but everyone knows as soon as we see him what his entire arc is going to be.
Yeah.
He is the most predictable of the cast.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame. And to be fair, a lot of people do fall into tropes, like, Roth is the mentor character, although he's pretty well done.
Or Reyes as the spunky black chick.
Yeah. I know Sam's just the friend. Like, she is the plot device, sadly.
Sam, yeah. And we'll get to her when we meet her, because she's by far, like, I didn't like Whitman, but Sam is by far the most offensive character in the game to me, honestly.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, though.
Whereas Far Cry 3 would have been like, alright, it's time to shoot dudes and commit all kinds of murder. This game is it's time to hunt for food.
Which is weird, because Lisa in Far Cry 3 does a lot better than Sam does in Tomb Raider.
Yeah, as far as...
they fill pretty much the same role.
But, yeah, like I was saying, I think this is really interesting just because in an average shooter, it'd just already be like, alright, it's time to commit, like, loads of murder. In this game, it's like, alright, time to search for food. It's like, it's time to get your first weapon.
Which is
and
weird, because this is the
something.
only time in the entire game you search for food.
Which is such a bummer. I remember when I first played this game, I thought it would be kind of an interesting idea to have some kind of resource meter.
Yeah, or some sort of survival mechanics.
Yeah.
Nothing too major, but just like something to make sure that you're doing something besides just kill dudes all day.
Yeah, I mean, there's somewhat... I feel like this game could have done a lot more as far as stuff like that. Like, it could have had a lot more dynamic world.
And I do like that she doesn't have the skill to make a bow, but she can find one.
Yeah. And it is the makeshift longbow.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of that, like, they actually make a point of saying that she knows how to use a bow.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did they ever explain that she knows how to use guns?
Voss trained her on how to use weapons.
Yeah. Which is, again, with Jason, it wouldn't seem like he would know how to fire a gun.
Yeah. Where in the game they explain that Ross, since he is the guy with military experience, is the one that trained most of the crew how to use some basic weaponry.
So you have a guy with a backstory that makes sense on how to use weapons, explain to the main character how to use weapons in a very human way.
Yes.
It's good game design.
Because he figured, we're doing something dangerous, you may need to fire a weapon at some point, so you might as well know how to when the need arises. Which, to be fair, that's a perfectly valid assumption to make when you're on a voyage to an unknown, uncharted area.
Yeah. I should also point out, though, that this hunting scene, it's fine. It's short, but it's like, it's not The Last of Us, which might have, like, one of the best, like, hunting scenes in a game.
Like, this might be a good place to call it afterwards.
Yeah. No, there's a natural stopping point after this.
Yeah. Because we're almost 24 minutes.
Man, I'm getting so excited to play Tomb Raider.
I do like how she is very reluctant to kill even an animal at this point.
Yeah, and then like the idea of like gutting it instead of Jason just going, you get like a full cutscene where it's like you get to see on her face that she does not look happy.
Yeah, she doesn't need to have some sort of grunt or groan. You can just see it in the way the animated this whole scene.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Alright, we're gonna head back to camp, and then that'll be the end of episode 1.
Alright.
Yeah.
Also, I should also point out, the Survival Instinct is a great way to have no HUD unless you need it.
Yes. I like... there was a huge backlash from people who played old school games with these kinds of eagle vision mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
But I like it. It's something that
I think it's a great compromise.
Yeah.
For just help if
you don't
need
want
it, but
to
not
use
forced
it, you
on
don't
you.
have to use it. So
you can play this whole game without using that. All right. Well, we get to the first part where it says, "Hey, here's how to use skill points," and then you can start dumping them into whatever you want.
Yeah, and everything only costs 1.
Yeah, and it always just costs 1, I believe.
Yeah, so that means a level up will guarantee you a new skill, which is very nice. Because even a lot of games with these kind of systems don't do that. Like Far Cry 4, for instance, there are some that cost like 3 or 4 points to get that level up.
All right, and we're gonna call it after this. Yes, now it gets to the point where Laura's making contact with some people, with Roth.
A little long in the tooth for this episode, but definitely not bad.
Yeah. Start a new season, man. Always room to improve. Yeah, that guy was dead for a while.
And Roth basically serves the role of the mentor character.
Yeah, I mean it's
because he has experience in surviving in shitty situations.
And it's a pretty, basic mentor setup, but again, it's well acted, it's well scripted.
Yeah, there's nothing in this game that will surprise you in its plot, but it does its story very well.
Also, man, just look at the Tress effects from the front. They look awesome. It's just the ponytail that freaks out.
Yeah, and if the thing is, if they did the long hair as well, if they did the ponytail, it would probably look even worse.
Man, the future's gonna be great when this will be standard and we can finally fix the physics on them.
Okay. Yeah, because it's too floppy.
Yeah.
Real hair isn't that floppy, but it is somewhat floppy.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for interactive
we
friction.
just need to reduce the
Season 2.
magnitude of the acceleration or something like that.
So, Season 2, Episode 1 is finished.
Yes. Good night, guys.
Yep. Bye, everybody.